Warning, Gory Story Time is a horror movie review show with a 13-year-old host. So, if you are not amused by the idea of a child describing R-rated graphic scenes of violence and death, or do not want movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s spoiled, this may not be the show for you. Parental guidance is suggested.
Yeah, so guide your parents out of the room so we can have some fun. Welcome to Gory Story Time.
And speak up.
I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host, Craig, and
today's guest is Don Tretler.
Hi.
You may know him from the show that he and I do together.
About fathering.
Yes, it's Daddy Issues, and we invited him to come in because the movie that we're doing, The Stepfather, we figured it's about parenting. Let's do a crossover Daddy Issues, Gory Story Time super show.
Sounds like a fun idea.
Anyway, before we get too far, let's watch the trailer, and then we'll get into the meat of the show.
I like meat.
Very well then.
Morrison isn't his real name.
What is it?
God knows, we don't. His personal history was falsified and his prints were untraceable. It was possible Morrison had done it before.
You can call me sentimental, I don't care. I have beautiful friends, I have a wonderful new family. So what do you think? Can we give this little guy a home?
Sure.
That's my girl.
He's a wonderful man, and he wants to care for us. I don't know. There's just something about him.
Oh, that guy in Bellevue that killed his whole family. Cut him up with knives. Maybe they disappointed him. All we need is a little order around here. You're a good boy. He's a good boy. Isn't he a good boy? You've had his little angel. Hi, honey.
He's just some crazy creep. Don't you talk to your father that way. He's not my father. How can you even bear to let him touch you? Stop it! We have to talk, honey.
About what?
About what is happening to our family.
I'm taking care of it.
He scares me, Dr. Pondering.
Who am I here?
Help me! Help!
You're a very bad girl.
The Stepfather.
Well.
All right, so The Stepfather. Before we get into that, we should do our fake real commercials, our actual sponsors that exist. I'll read one and then you can read the other one. Gory Story Time is brought to you by Terrio brand Father's Day cards. The only Father's Day cards for the dad who won't let anything stop him from having the perfect family. That's Terrio. Look for them at your local dollar store. And also
By Body by Blake, the amazing weight loss system. Pop in one of our amazing exercise DVDs, and personal fitness guru Jerry Blake will come and chase you through your house at knife point. Slash away the pounds with Body by Blake.
All right. Now, let's give a little basic synopsis of the movie.
Whatever that word means.
The story. The basic story.
Okay. Well, for a second, I changed. The Jerry Blake character kills his family. which isn't hidden because that's the first scene.
Yeah, this is not a spoiler alert. It starts with the
He's a
reveal
murderer.
that he's murdered his family. Yes.
He leaves his house to go start his own.
Shaves off his beard and
Yeah.
tries to look different.
To change his life and go live with a new family.
Mm-hmm.
And people catch on to.
Well, his
no.
new stepdaughter.
Catches on to that there was this family that got killed.
Around the time he showed up.
And then she's doing a whole bunch of research into it because she thinks it's him and wants to.
And then
be him.
unicorns and rainbows for all.
Yes.
No.
No.
Then horrible, horrible things begin happening.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's give some behind the scenes knowledge.
You go first.
You want me to go first?
I usually do.
The original first draft showed flashbacks of Jerry Blake being abused as a child to explain his aptitude for becoming a killer. They took that out before filming. I think it would have probably made it make more sense as far as like why would he resort to murder, but
The movie was loosely based on the story of John List, the New Jersey man who killed his family in 1971 and was on the run until 1989 when his profile on America's Most Wanted resulted in his capture.
which is funny because this movie came out in 87, so the fact is this movie came out, he may have watched it not even realizing it was inspired by him. If he was into horror movies, you never know.
Yeah.
But 2 years after this movie, he was caught. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but Jill Sholin, I believe is how I'd say that. She played Stephanie, the daughter.
Yeah.
Claimed she was so disturbed from filming the final act, she had recurring nightmares of being chased by Terry O'Quinn, just like in the scene she was filming.
Stephanie's mother, played by Shelley Hack, was only 16 years older than Jill Sholin, who plays Stephanie. Also, Terry O'Quinn was also 11 years older than her.
No, was only 11 years older than the girl playing Stephanie.
Oh.
In other words, in real life, for him to be her dad, he would have been 11.
So he was younger than Shelley Hack.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's not the way it looked, though.
Well, that's because he balded early. I started noticing my hair thinning at 17. Unfortunately, that happens. I mean,
And
remember
you
when
just
you
the
were in
other day.
elementary school as a young balding Don Tretler?
I never had hair. I was bald as a 4-year-old.
There you go.
Bald.
From all the stress of, nap time.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was very stressed as a child.
Joseph Rubin, he's the director. He was reluctant at first to direct the movie because he didn't want to make another, what he called, run-of-the-mill slasher movie.
Yeah. Screenwriter Donald E. Westlake.
That's one word.
Westlake based the character of Stephanie on his real life teenage stepdaughter who he was having trouble getting along with.
Which is kind of scary. I'm sure she sat down and watched it and went, "What are you trying to say?" The director, again, Joseph Rubin, wanted Jerry Blake to whistle the Barbra Streisand song "The Way We Were," but the rights to that were too expensive. Remember when it showed him whistling in a couple of different scenes? That originally it was supposed to be a Barbra Streisand song.
Instead, it was Camptown Ladies, which I wondered, what's the significance of whistling Camptown Ladies?
The fact that it's in the public domain and cost them nothing.
But I think he could have picked something different, something that kind of went along with it. Camptown Ladies seemed so absurd in a weird way.
It didn't really. Well, I guess
Absurd
at the
to the
beginning,
fact that
after
he
murdering his
started
family. Well, I think it just shows how nonchalant he was about it. Maybe.
That's it. That's probably why they did it. You're right. They picked a very
But the way we were is kind of a deeper meaning to it. If they had got that,
Yeah.
It's like, well, we were a good family. Now you're dead. Your
refer.
Cinnabon.
Yeah, Cinnabon. John Lindley was hired last minute as a replacement for the original director of photography, who was arrested in a domestic dispute right before the shooting was to start.
Ironic.
Interesting.
Ironic, yes, very ironic.
Actual irony, unlike the song "Ironic" by what's her name, Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Jill Sholin did almost all of her own stunts for the final scene.
Oh.
When she's being chased around and stuff, she did most of her own stunts.
Cool. The movie was shot in 40 days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Stephanie is 16 years old, but Jill Sholin, the actress who plays her, was 23 at the time. Which is why you got to see her boobs.
You got to see her boobs?
You watched the movie, right?
Yeah, but he said you got to see her boobs.
Well, to be fair, she texted them to him. That was outside of the movie.
And like their other show, they're going completely off topic.
Your turn.
That's right.
Yes. Terry O'Quinn became famous and, well known in 2004 as Locke on Lost. He was also in Primal Fear and was on The X-Files. Yeah.
And we haven't done this in a little while, but I looked up some what we like to call grave mistakes.
Mess-ups in the movie.
Yeah, but it's a nice little pun. Stephanie picks up a U2 cassette called Wide Awake in America, puts it in the player. When she presses play, we hear Pat Benatar's Run Between the Raindrops.
Funny.
Which, I don't know if you know much about Bono's voice, but he does not sound...
like U2.
Yes, he does sound like U2. He doesn't sound like Pat Benatar.
Oh, well, whatever. At the end, Jerry is stabbed in the chest with a knife. After falling down the stairs, the knife is in his chest moved over.
Yeah, like the wound. Yeah, exactly. When Jerry tries to beat down the bathroom door to attack Stephanie, the mirror inside breaks. But when he finally breaks through the door, the mirror is shown intact again before shattering a second time.
I have to think about this because I watched it. It did shatter twice.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. That's what makes it a mistake.
Okay, then.
Webster's defines mistake as...
when Jerry Blake is hitting Dr. Bondurant with the 2x4 in the house, it is obvious that the 2x4 bends on the last shot to his ribs.
So it bends, meaning it's obviously fake, which you would know, but they should have cut it before you see it start to wrap around his body.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's there.
All right. Interesting. I didn't catch any of that.
Yeah. Well, I always look up on IMDb and, I listen to commentaries and stuff and try to get as much information about these movies as possible. Because instead of just reviewing and saying, oh, it's thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing, because we're doing older movies, it's like, well, here's some stuff you may not have known,
Yeah.
So you want to...
favorite and least favorite scenes?
Well, what I was going to say is we usually talk about how many people actually were killed in the movie. But this one's a little harder because technically we only saw one murder because what we saw was the aftermath at the beginning of the family, but we don't actually see it on screen. And they never said how many people died.
Did that actually die?
Huh?
That cop guy at the end. Did he actually die?
Oh, that wasn't a cop guy. That was his brother. It was the brother of the original.
Okay. Did he actually die?
I'm assuming so.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Because...
Yeah, I know. Well, and the therapist or whatever,
Okay.
Stephanie's
He
therapist.
definitely died.
2.
Yeah, so there's 2, and then however many people were in the family he killed at the beginning, there was at least one younger kid. There was a wife.
Because they showed a family photo. So he had
Okay.
3 kids in the original
Okay.
family.
So then there was 4
3
murders there.
kids.
So
Oh, wow.
so that would make 6 total deaths.
Still more than Freddy.
Yes. Well, we started discussing this because in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, there was 4 deaths total. And we pointed out that more people died in Forrest Gump, yet Freddy gets a bunch of flack for death.
Oh, yeah, that was that movie. Oh,
Forrest
with the
Gump?
war and the
Oh,
people
yeah.
dying. Oh, yeah.
And then with his girlfriend Jenny passing away of AIDS.
And the guy with
there
his
was more
guts
people that died in
held in-
Forrest Gump than died in Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's scary to
One
think about.
was Oscar winning, and one was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
But horror movies in general catch a lot of flack for that. And
Which doesn't make sense because it's horror. They're supposed to have death.
well, to be fair, horror is not considered a genre that the Oscars look at fondly. Same with comedies for the most part. They don't really get their due. And it's like reviewers feel the same way about comedies. It's like they always give them a lower rating. And it's like, well, did people laugh? Then what is there to say bad? Like, isn't that the point of a comedy? And Chucky went down.
Okay, then.
Apparently, he wants to be an intern at the White House.
He's going down.
Yeah, you got the joke. Anyway. So
yeah, there weren't a lot of bodies in this movie.
no. So there was 2 on-screen kills, and then I guess 4 that
Off-scene?
Yeah,
Off-screen kills?
that you kind of see the aftermath of, but you don't see the actual deaths.
Which, one thing I didn't like was they had him come back for the second.
Well, yeah, the sequel has him, but he didn't actually die.
Exactly, which is wrong.
How could they have a sequel if he didn't die? I mean,
Easily,
if he
a different
died.
stepdad doing the same evil thing. Or they could have left it as it was.
Or they could have had him come, and they could have had him come back like a Freddy or Jason type. I mean, for God's sakes, the whole plot of the Friday the 13th movie is it was the mom in the first one, as we've discussed on this show. And then in the sequel, the son that she was revenging came back to revenge her. Because,
That happens.
continuity-wise, that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
You have to say she is one of the meanest hockey moms of all time. Anyway, so let's talk. Don't tap the table with the microphones.
Almost forgot. Yeah.
You just did it. Anyway, what was you? Do you want to let Don go first, or do you want to go first?
You go first.
What was your favorite scene of the movie? Would you say?
I'm trying to think of what was working for me. What was something that was different than I think the guy was pretty creepy. Mm-hmm. I think he had like a real creepiness to him. So I think the scene where he was on the phone and he made a mistake.
Said the wrong name.
Right. And then he hit his wife with the phone. I thought that was I think that was probably my favorite because I was like, wow, that was
effective.
Finally, like kind of flipped out, and I think he was kind of effective. I mean, he had a little creepiness to him that was really good for this.
I don't know
movie.
if you ever saw Lost, but he was creepy on that too.
Was he?
Yeah, he was in a wheelchair before the plane crashed on this desert island, and all of a sudden he was walking around, and no one realized he was the guy from the wheelchair, and there was a lot of creepiness involved.
Very good.
My favorite scene would have to be the very first scene. The fact that he first
so
of all, calmly fixed up the toys in the baby's bedroom, went downstairs, fixed the chair that was right next to the stairs, shaved,
straightened his hair, got
put
dressed.
on a suit with a tie, and got a suitcase and left, and whistled, picked up the newspaper. Who cares about the newspaper after you murdered your family?
And then just walks away.
And just... yeah, I loved that.
All right. That was actually going to be my choice because it just which again, this is actually the first time I think it's happened in 20, how many episodes? 22, 23?
Second time.
This is episode 22.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think
so
it's the second time.
Is it?
Yeah.
But just when it shows him shaving and he's just got blood splattered on his face and he's just very calmly, and it's like, I don't know how calm I'd be shaving as, there's blood that had been splattered on my face. All right, what was your least favorite scene? It doesn't, and sometimes I choose things that aren't actually a scene. It'll be like in Nightmare on Elm Street, it was like the synth music that was way too loud.
Oh, okay.
So we usually do a scene, but if something else really struck you as annoying,
There was a point in the movie. Good, that you kind of like reminded me of when the brother, when the original wife, the original wife's brother, who was chasing him.
I thought that was his brother.
No. It was his wife's
why would he be
brother.
trying to get and have arrested his own brother for? No, it was because this man killed my sister and got away with it. I want him caught. That's what it was.
So he found a clue, and then he was like, "That's it. I know." I think he found it in a book. He found a clue. I know where he is.
The
So he
page
was-
is missing from the magazine was what it was.
So he ran and got in the car and everything. The music that went along with it was so happy. It was almost like music from a comedy. So it really did not fit. And most of the music for the movie pretty much fit, but that was like so
Mood-wise.
weird. It just didn't go with it.
Neither did the whistling.
But I think that was meant to be, ironic or, just showing how callous he was.
Yeah. My least favorite scene would have to be the scene where he takes out the mail and sees the picture of him in the folder for Stephanie and takes it out or whatever and doesn't give it to her because I wanted her to find out before the end of the movie that it was him.
Yeah, but it added to the suspense,
Right. But for some reason I just wanted her to know.
Oh, another mistake is my issue with it. If you notice, when he's down in his basement workshop and he's putting a picture in there to replace that, it was a picture of a man who was smiling. And when she looks at the picture as she takes it out of the envelope, it's the same man, but he's not smiling. Somehow they made the mistake of having a very different picture of the same guy in the envelope when she pulled it out. And things like that seem so easy to get right. Like, just have the one damn picture. Like, why do you need multiple pictures? And if you have multiple pictures to choose from, whichever one you choose, just use that. Get rid of all of the other shots.
Maybe they spilled coffee on it.
I don't know. But I noticed that it's like he inserts the picture and it's a guy smiling. She takes it out and the guy's like, it's like, well, that's not correct. All right. Let's rate the movie on a scale of 1 to 10.
Least?
I just said my
Was it
least.
the picture?
Oh, yeah, okay. I thought you were just adding on to my least. Okay.
No.
Okay. I'd have to rate this movie a 9.
A 9 out of 10?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because him playing the stepfather, first of all,
Creepy.
added the creepiness, which was great for it. And the second part of why is because it was based on a true story.
All right.
And whenever it's based on a true story, I always find it more creepy and better for a horror movie.
And unlike a lot of horror movies, not only could it happen, it did happen.
Exactly.
It
wasn't
it's
an
not as
stepfather, it was a
fantastical
father,
because
but-
there's nothing you see that couldn't have existed in the real world. And that adds a level of, you have to
Especially in the world
suspend
we live in
disbelief.
now.
You have to suspend your disbelief when, a guy kills you in your dreams or a guy keeps coming back to life every year on Friday the 13th to murder counselors or, but when it's just a guy who is a sociopath / psychopath murderer, that
Slash
happens.
stepdad.
That happens.
Yeah.
The scary thing is that happens. And specifically, this happened.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, not the Puget Sound area of Seattle and everything, but whatever. What would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? I know horror is probably not your biggest genre, but
I like a good
for
horror
what
movie.
but for what it is.
I would probably give it a 5. It's not a bad movie. I mean, it definitely is a watchable movie. It moves along at a nice pace. I didn't catch any of the mistakes or anything, so I thought, that this is, it's a pretty good movie. It's not really a great movie.
Not a lot of jump scares, which is what a lot of people look for in a horror movie too.
Right.
It's more of the creep factor.
Yeah, because the jump scares were all gone as soon as you saw him walk into the room with his murdered, slaughtered family in the beginning.
I mean,
that right there gets rid of jump scares.
I think it's kind of like a borderline horror movie. I wouldn't even really call it a horror movie.
Well, it seems more psychological, but they definitely classify it in the horror genre because I remember, renting it from a video store when I was younger and it was in the horror section, but it does seem more of a, drama / psychological thriller.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to really classify it as what it is.
Well, how'd you like it?
I would probably give it a 7, mainly because it might be a little higher for me if it wasn't for the fact that a lot of the stuff seems dated. It seems kind of 80s. And
right, but it was made in the 80s.
Yes, but you can make some movies that, like Back to the Future, still holds up and doesn't seem dated, and that was 1985. You don't get more dated than, you don't get more 80s than dead center of the 80s. But it doesn't really seem to say, 80s style filmmaking. This definitely looked and sounded 80s.
Like 80s.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think it also had a little subtext to this whole movie too. Like if you think about it, it had this. I thought it had kind of a really, from the fatherhood show. I think it really had an anti-fatherhood bent to the whole thing. If you think about it, what happened? Here's this guy that comes in and he ruins the family. Basically, he ruined the original family. He ruined the family from the story in this story that he's
under the guise of wanting a perfect family.
Right.
Now, did either of you think that maybe the dad that died in the second family he may have had something to do with? Because it seemed like they didn't quite.
Died in the second family.
Yeah, Stephanie's dad had died a year earlier, around the time he had killed his other family, and was like
trying to find a perfect
without
family.
Specifically coming out and saying it. I think that it seemed like he may have
had something to do with this guy's disappearance.
That's interesting. I hadn't put that together.
I got that feeling without them actually. There's nothing they said that made me think that, but it seemed like, I don't know. I got that feeling.
Right.
But maybe
I thought
maybe
the
that was
woman
just me reading into it.
I thought the woman was a little dopey, where she said at one point, "Yeah, I didn't really know anything about him. He never talks about his past." Really? Why would you get
suspicious?
Yeah, why would you get involved with this guy? Like, what would be the why would you develop a relationship with this person? What do you talk about if he doesn't talk about anything from his past? Do you know what I mean? Like, and she never
his plans for his future.
She got married to him. I'm so in love with him, and I know nothing about him. I don't know where he grew up or anything like that. So I thought that was
he grew up within a 3-mile radius or whatever they said.
Well, that's where he killed his last family. It doesn't mean that's where he came from, but
right.
And the first person he kills, right? I mean, after he kills his family, but the first person he kills the psychologist who's looking into the whole relationship of the family.
Well, I didn't like that the psychologist was kind of being sleazy about it. It's like, I understand you want to talk to him, but don't pretend you're going to buy a house and try to be all subtle and, secretive about it. That seems to go against whatever ethics he's supposed to have had, too. That doesn't mean he should be beat to death by a 2x4, but, well, it's about time to wrap it up, so let's mention Final Cut Video.
Yeah.
In Bells Falls, they have, a pretty good selection of movies. They have that system where it's basically iPads and you go in for any of their older movies and you can look up by genre, by actor, by title.
And then they still have new releases up on the wall.
Yep. But it's kind of cool to just, go through the iPad and look at what movies they have. An actual video store still exists, in 2015. And they've, let us watch a few movies to review here, and we appreciate it. So we want to give a shout out to Final Cut right on Westminster Street here at the four-way intersection. Also, we have an email address.
Yeah. Give us feedback, good, bad.
You want to tell them the email address?
Oh, gorystorytime@yahoo.com. Leave comments of any sort, good, bad. Leave ideas of movies we should do.
Watch the movie. See if I was right. See if this is anti-family. The very end of the movie, when the birdhouse that he built, they cut it down and it falls in the ground and breaks.
Well, you did see that it was the house from the first murder. Right?
Yeah, it was supposed to look
that
like
birdhouse
that
was the house.
But it was a broken home. That's kind of like what that's. I thought that was kind of symbolism.
But it was also the house that he had killed his first family in. Because we noticed that right away. It's like, that's gross. Like creepy wise. But, all right, that's been Gory Story Time.
I'm your host, Jason.
I'm Craig.
I'm special guest Don Trutler.
And
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.